Hello and welcome to another episode of TEDxDupreeParkTV. We are so glad that you are joining us today. We have some amazing guests for you that you are going to really enjoy getting to know because we are all about seeding greatness, sharing wonderful ideas with the world, things that will make the world better, happier, more prosperous, bring more peace into the world, all kinds of great ideas. And you are going to love getting to know our guest today. Joining me today as my co-host is our co-organizer for TEDx Dupree Park, Mike Gina. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Gina. How are you?
I'm doing great. Usually you come on at the end of the show, sort of help us recap. My regular co-host, Steve Monahan, the organizer, can't be here today. He's having some internet problems, but I'm so glad that you could join us. Mike, we don't get to hear enough from you. I'm going to feature you right now as a solo for a few seconds. Tell people what you do and what it is that excites you about TEDx Dupree Park.
Well, Gina, thanks very much. As a profession, I manage money for people, and I have a lot of fun doing that. I was fired from my first two corporate jobs. I've been on my own ever since. I've created several small businesses over the years, and part of TEDx Dupree Park is this notion of continuing to create, continuing to learn and do things that I haven't done before. Steve Monahan and I, we've been friends for a number of years, and we've kind of kicked this around some type of event in Woodstock. I tell you, Cherokee County, the city of Woodstock, it's a wonderful place. There's a very unique and youthful vibe in the city that we wanted to tap into. And Steve went to TED.com, downloaded the license, recruited the fabulous team that we have that is trying to produce this TEDx conference. And, each and every week, I so look forward to these Facebook TV things because we're keeping the ball rolling. We're keeping some momentum going. We're continuing to seed greatness and share really good ideas.
Yes, well, we had a little detour. We had planned to have our big in-person event on May 15th of this year. Yeah. And so there's a little thing called the pandemic that got in our way, but that's okay. We're continuing. Actually, there's good news that we're able to do this TV show now, the TEDx Dupree Park TV, broadcasted on, right now we're broadcasting on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter all at once. We're simulcasting, so we're getting the word out in a bigger way that we might not have done if we had just been stuck with the physical version.
Jenny, you're so right. You never know what's going to come around the next corner. And one of the things that I love about you, Steve, our team, is that we continue to innovate. We continue to figure out how to make things go. And deep down, I think that's an innate trait of the human species. You adapt or you get left behind. And we have adapted. We continue to press forward. We continue to try new things. One of the phrases that I've learned in the last few years that I've reluctantly come to embrace, but it makes a lot of sense, is this notion of failing forward. And that if you're not failing, you're really not acting, you're really not moving, you're really not improving. And so long as you're moving in the right direction, I view failure as just another step on the road to ultimate success. And like I said, this TEDx Dupree Park it's been marvelous for me. I have learned so much about working with the team and bringing in terrific speakers from all across the country, literally across the globe. We had about 220 people submit applications to be speakers at our conference. What a mind-blowing result that was. And winnowing that down to 20 world-class speakers with super neat ideas. We are going to be seeding greatness. And I like to say we're going to blow the doors off of Woodstock, Georgia, and Planet Earth here in November.
Exactly. Well, you're right. It was so hard to go through that list of 200 plus speakers and select just the few the voices that we really wanted on our stage for our very first world premiere of TEDx Dupree Park. And one of those is with us today, and that is Brielle Cotterman. Brielle, how you doing today?
Hey, Gina and Mike. Thank you so much for having me today. As always, I'm so thrilled to be a part of TEDx Dupree Park, whether it's actually on the stage in November or here on our live stream as we prepare and move forward.
Well, you have so many talents, and your mission, your everything about you just really appealed to us as a voice that we wanted to hear from. So let me just feature you right now as a solo for a few seconds and tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you're all about and what you plan to be speaking about at TEDx.
Well, thank you, Gina. So I am a publicity expert and a celebrity maker. And everything that I do is rooted in story. And I love, that you mentioned, Mike, that failing forward, because the really incredible thing about life as we live it is that the human experience includes so many challenges, and it's really what you do with those challenges. And so everything that I do in my work in publicity is all rooted in story. It's rooted in allowing advocates and experts to step forward and to claim their story and the power that goes along with it, and to step onto the world stage and do so in a way that allows them to make a difference and make an impact.
Well said. I can't thank you enough for being a part of our experience. And what a survivor you are. Not only a survivor, but you've learned how to thrive, and you teach others how to thrive. It's been a great honor to get to know you. And we've been working for a few months, getting to know each other. And we're just very pleased to have you a part of our TEDxDupreeParkTV.
Thanks, Mike. And, I appreciate you and everyone on the team as well. I myself, a big part of the reason why I was attracted to TEDx Dupree Park, the whole theme of seeding greatness.
Yeah.
For me, when I am a survivor of attempted murder and domestic violence.
Yeah.
And so there was a time in my life where, regardless of all of the things that I had done, regardless of all of my many accomplishments, personally, professionally, academically, all of those things, I ended up in a situation where I was in an abusive marriage.
Yeah.
And that type of domestic violence and abuse doesn't discriminate. It is, unfortunately, it's something that happens to all demographics, all races, ethnicities, educational backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds, and so forth. And I felt like seeds of darkness had been planted in my life. That was something that it took me to a place where I wasn't proud of the person I was, or of my previous accomplishments, of all of the things that I had done and been, because I was dealing with a domestic violence situation. And many years later now, that story, those seeds of darkness have become my power. And that's really how I empower entrepreneurs and advocates all over the world to step onto the world stage and to create the opportunities so that they can use those seeds of darkness and turn them into a positive impact in the world. Because at the end of the day, that's what we really need. Because the human experience is filled with challenges and ups and downs. And so if we can take our own stories and we can inspire others and make a bigger impact in the world, shift the way we think about things, amplify our voices, and make a difference, then, I feel like we're winning.
Great point. And this whole notion of stories, that's what TEDx Dupree Park is rooted in. And thank you for sharing your situation. I can raise my hand a little bit, certainly not on your level, but so many of us have dark periods in our lives, and how we go forward with that ends up determining the quality of our life at the end. So thank you. Your message is very powerful, and it resonates with me dramatically.
Well, I appreciate it. And I appreciate you saying that. So, I'm just honored to be a part of the speaker lineup for this year. And gosh, so many incredible people. I mean, it's so humbling for me to be involved and on this list with all of these really awesome and amazingly qualified, talented speakers.
Well, that's certainly you, Brielle. And this issue that's affecting so many with the domestic violence, I know with the pandemic and the lockdown, that's just been so magnified. And I've seen some of the posts that you've been doing to help people with that. Is there anything that you'd like to share about that right now that people can be doing or that people should be aware of?
Yeah, absolutely. Because see, my situation was such, and this is, so there's a common misconception about domestic violence that it starts off looking like domestic violence and 99% of the time it doesn't. So my best recommendation is, and I have a list, I'm an advocate for a place where domestic violence is not tolerated, and where survivors and victims are met with empathy and understanding, which is a really important part of the whole process. But I have a list of non-conventional warning signs. And some of those warning signs include manipulating you, controlling, as far as, asking questions and positioning you in a way that makes you feel bad about yourself. Teasing you in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable, either in private or in front of other people. Using something that you love, whether that's an animal or a child, to manipulate and control you. There's a power wheel that is really clearly defined by the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and there is a typical progression. But if you or anyone that you know is experiencing those types of situations, you have to step forward, because you are in a situation that could potentially progress towards physical violence. I want to just clarify that I am 9 months pregnant. So I'm due in just a couple of weeks. So I apologize. I'm just trying to catch my breath here. And I have sometimes these little baby burps that pop out. So I apologize.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny. But thank you for sharing that with us. And yes, you don't look pregnant, so
No,
well, thank you.
Good news all around.
Well, thank you so much, Brielle. And so, do we have a name picked out already?
You know what, we do. So and so this has really been, speaking of my previous experiences, this has really been a catalyst for significant change in my own life. This is many years, almost a decade later. I'm married just for almost a year now to an incredible man, the love of my life, a very healthy relationship. And my 2 children are very nurtured and loved by him. And just the idea that when things are not good, there's always the opportunity to rise.
Yes.
And so I feel so fortunate to get to experience this phase of my life, creating new life and bringing this message to the world, because it's not just domestic violence. For each of us, we all have different scenarios that we face. And like you mentioned, Mike, it's how you handle it. It's whether you rise or you allow it to claim power over you. And so this has really been a really beautiful experience and evolution for me. And I feel like TEDxDupreePark is just kind of like the icing on the cake this year after the baby is born. But this is baby Bennett. So we have a little boy who's going to be born here in just very soon. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, Brielle, thank you so much. We're just honored that you're going to be joining us on the TEDxDupreePark stage. The new date for those of you watching is November 20th. It's a Friday in November, and we're just crossing our fingers and hoping that everything's going to work out so that we can go forward. And by then, your baby will be a few months old and everything will be great. Well, Brielle, thank you so much. We love having you on board. And I see your beautiful horse behind you there. And I've seen many of your pictures of you with horses. And you live in a beautiful part of Kentucky. And it's just, it's wonderful. A big part of TEDxDupreePark is focused on animals. Yeah. And we're a big part of the bond that's brought many of us together is we're big animal lovers. So you fit right in with that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm a world's grand champion equestrian, and we have a horse breeding farm here. And so that's a big part of our day today. And it's a pretty good part, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, it's a beautiful area that you live in.
Yeah, Mike, you're a big horse person too.
I am indeed. Right. I play polo, and I own one horse. It's great fun. It's been an amazing escape, so to speak, from the everyday grind of life, particularly during this pandemic. Having the farm, having a horse that required my attention it enabled social distancing on 138 acres and being able to get out, get some exercise, get some fresh air. We're back to playing polo now, which is great fun. And I look forward to the fall coming when the temperatures and humidity moderates just a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, I will tell you now, I have taken some polo lessons. So, I mean, the baby's going to be born by the time I'm down there. So we might have to get out to the polo field.
Well, I'd love to have you. It's a great place to learn how to play polo. And there's actually very good polo in and around Atlanta. There's about 4 or 5 fields and 4 or 5 different clubs. We had a tournament last weekend down in Vinings that was great fun. It was very hot, but it was great fun. Some really good polo. So I hope
it's a wonderful
everybody
sport. Yeah.
Checks it out, Atlanta Polo Club.
Cool.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you so much, Brielle. We'll be seeing you around.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brielle.
Oh boy. Well, I know we are so inspired by our speakers, getting to learn more from them each week on TEDx Dupree Park, and just having done the interviews and interactions with them. It's just been a wonderful experience, hasn't it, Mike?
It has been. I can't really fathom that, like Brielle said, the depth, the talent, our bench, whatever you might want to call it, the speakers that we have lined up. One of the reasons I wanted to do this is I thought it would create an opportunity for me to meet people that I would not meet in any other walk of life. And it is so proven to be the fact. And I'm so glad to be a part of it, having interactions and conversations with our speakers, with our team, and with our sponsors. This has been an amazing experience. I've really enjoyed it. And we look forward to bringing all of this to fruition one way or another. One way or another, we're going to see greatness, and we're going to make an impact and a difference in the world today.
Well, absolutely. Well, I just want to give a shout out to so many people who are posting in our Facebook chat here. Bhavna Muta, thank you so much. She's one of our she's been really active in helping us bring on new sponsors and really our community outreach. Amanda Setili, who's going to be one of our speakers here today. Julie Donnelly, one of our speakers who has been on the show already, and she's out there. Thank you, Julie, for your comments. And who else is out there? Let's see. I saw Marcy posting. Marcy, our producer, our wizard behind the scenes, who is making sure everything works well here today. So Marcy, thank you so much. And if I missed anybody, I apologize, but keep posting and I'll keep sharing what you guys are posting out there. So with our show, we have some opportunities to bring new talent to the stage, the virtual stage, that we weren't going to be able to get onto our stage in November because we have a limited number of slots. With the one-day show, it's fairly limited. But I was delighted that with this format, we're able to bring on people that we're calling our sages. And so let's bring on one of our sages today, our sage for today, one of my longtime friends, Amanda Setili. Amanda, welcome.
Hi, Gina. Hi, Mike. Thanks so much for having me today.
Oh, thank you for joining us. We're thrilled. I am. To be in the presence of 2 Harvard MBA grads, that's amazing for me. Be right between you.
Well, that is where I met Amanda years ago. And actually, I knew Amanda's husband before that because he was Georgia Tech and Harvard MBA and water skier on top of that. I was a competitive water skier and Rob was on the ski team too. So we had that connection when we got to Harvard. And so, and she's an engineer by background and I am too. So we just had all these things going on. It's like, Amanda, just adore you. So Amanda has been writing and thinking a lot about what's going on in the future. But before we get to that, these future things about the pandemic, Amanda, I'm going to feature you and just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, who you are, and what's going on in your life right now.
Well, many years ago, I was an engineer like you and worked for Kimberly-Clark in a production facility and really enjoyed that experience. And that's been kind of a grounding experience for me going forward in my life. And then worked for McKinsey & Company, first in Atlanta and then in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And we stayed there for 4 years. It was a really fantastic experience of living in another country with a variety of cultures and just getting to know people from all over the world. When we came back to the States, we started Setili & Associates, which is a strategy consulting firm. And my focus is primarily on helping companies who have gotten really, really good at doing something very well and are quite successful, but now are in the middle of a not just right now, which is extreme change, but all the time in the middle of market change, which they need to adapt to and figure out how to capitalize on. So that's my focus, and it's been really, really interesting.
Well, it has been interesting, and it's been great to watch your growth and what you've been doing. You really caught my attention recently with the posts that you were doing on LinkedIn, articles about the industries that you're seeing will be significantly changed as a result of the pandemic and the lockdown and what's going on with the economy. Would you care to share some of that with us right now?
Oh, there's so many interesting things. So, my theory is that even in industries that are going to be really hard hit by this, like commercial real estate, like travel, like conventions, there's going to be winners and losers. So there's going to be companies who look at this as an opportunity, try to figure out how to play in this market, and are very attentive to changing customer needs. And even if their industry is declining, they're going to have a really big opportunity to gain market share. And so that's why I'm really excited about this time of change. It's not pleasant for everyone. There's a lot of turmoil and a lot of difficulty, but it's a time when customers' needs are changing faster than we've ever seen at any other time. And it's a real opportunity. So an example would be digital adoption. A cable company needed to get cable rolled out to a whole lot of people who are suddenly working from home. And yet they couldn't have their technicians coming into the houses, right? Because this was during the massive lockdown. People didn't want technicians coming into their houses. And so that company actually accelerated their roadmap by 1 or 2 years to bring products to market that maybe weren't quite ready for prime time, or they wouldn't have in prior times thought that they were ready. But tools that were, for instance, enabling self-service for installation. And so the technician would just pick up a kit at the warehouse, bring it to your house, put it on your front steps, sit in his van out front and say, see if you can make your way through this and install it. The instructions are here, and I'm here to help if you need me. And they were able to, really get customers to adopt these digital solutions, which will be a permanent improvement in their productivity. So I'm seeing example after example of how customer readiness to adopt digital solutions now is going to lead to long-term productivity. And I've got lots of other examples that we can talk about later, but that's just one example of how, though this is a difficult time, there are many opportunities that we can take advantage of if we just stay agile, move fast, make quick decisions, and experiment to see how we can capitalize on things.
Yeah, that's really well said. And I find great periods of great disruption lead to great innovation. One of the things I noticed on your website, there was a little blurb about you planting the seeds for a new office in Kuala Lumpur. I like the tie-in with our theme of seeding greatness, but I'm curious, your experiences in Malaysia, how did that help prepare you for starting your own company and dealing with profound change? Did it, I imagine it was somewhat instrumental, but I'd like to hear more about that if you would.
Well, the thing about moving to another country is everything is suddenly different. And the assumptions that you've made about how things should be done are suddenly very different assumptions there. So an example is I had 2 babies when I was there. And so it's really exciting that Brielle is having a baby soon, because that's just such a wonderful thing to have happen. But so we had 2 children while we were there. And what I found fascinating, because there's 3 different cultures. There's the Tamil people who are from India originally, like a couple generations ago, the Chinese, and the Malays. And they're very different cultures, and they tend to retain their language, retain their customs and everything. And so as you're having your first child in a foreign country, people are, of course, giving you advice. And what I found so fascinating is the advice that your own mother gives you in the culture that you came from is so different from the advice that that you're hearing from other cultures. That's just one example, but it really makes you realize how many of the assumptions and paradigms that we live under are changeable. You know, you don't have to live under the same assumptions forever. You can question things and say, maybe there's a different way of doing things here. Maybe there's a way of coming about at this that could be a completely different way of looking at it, whatever the problem is, whether it's raising kids or starting a business or anything.
That's so true. When you travel the world and you see these different ways of looking at the world and different viewpoints, it's really, so many of our habits are just a matter of our customs and our culture and what we've been taught is normal, necessary. And some of this is just not true, right?
Right, exactly. You know, I heard something recently that just fascinated me, that, you know, you're in a time period, you're learning the paradigms of that time period. You think there's certain rules of thumb, certain ways that things should be done, certain best practices. And when things really change, as they've been really changing a lot these last few months, you don't realize that all of those paradigms and assumptions need to be thrown out, and you need to learn what's the new assumptions that we should be working under. You're still kind of extrapolating in a linear line from what you learned before. And so I think that we always need to be thinking about, hey, how could we be doing this differently? As you've seen in the last few months, companies have just made radical changes in how they're operating. Radical changes. They never would have anticipated a year ago that they could have changed that fast. But yet here we are, we've learned to do it as a society. And I think that it's going to be a permanent mindset shift in all of our minds, that change does not have to take a long time. We can do it quickly.
Well, that's a good lead into one of your books, the book about agility. Tell folks a little bit about your books and what are some of the case studies from there?
Yeah. So the agility advantage is about 3 stages, really. The first is to understand what's going on in your market and to anticipate what might happen next. So this is a perfect example that we're living in right now, because we really can't know what's going to happen next. You guys are operating under the assumption right now that you're hoping that November 20th will be a great day for your TEDxDupreePark event, but I'm sure you're keeping other options open, right? You're realizing that many different things could happen. So that first stage of the agility is to see what's going on and anticipate what might be happening next. The second stage is decision agility, which is how do you make a fast and fact-based decision about what action you should take first to capitalize on an opportunity that you see. And so while you don't know the entire game plan of how you're going to progress, you usually can be pretty darn good at deciding something that you can do tomorrow that's going to help you begin to learn, how do we get there? So just continuing with the example of your great TEDx program, you guys having speakers here on Facebook Live is a wonderful example of how you're experimenting. You're talking to lots of people. And I've got to imagine that you're really progressing your own knowledge of who the great speakers are out there, how to engage people, how to get the best knowledge out into the marketplace, how to really get positive ideas out into the world in a way that's probably, I would say it may be way more effective than what you originally had in mind pre-COVID. What do you think about that?
Well, I definitely agree, and I think Mike does as well. This has just been I won't say a blessing in disguise, but it's been a tremendous new opportunity to reach so many more people and present so many more points of view and brilliant people to the world. There so many 200 plus applications of people who wanted to be on our stage, who all had great ideas about seeding greatness, but we couldn't fit them all on there. And so then to bring folks like you up, and maybe one day you'll be on the TEDx stage. That's certainly a hope. Have you been on a TEDx yet?
I haven't, but I've wanted to. So yeah,
it's way past time. So one of the questions I had is, for the small businesses, I know you work with the huge mega corporations, but for a lot of folks that do watch the show are small business owners, especially in Woodstock, Georgia, where our TEDx is going to be based.
Mhm.
What's some advice you would have for them so that they can think bigger beyond what's going on? How could they leverage this pandemic so that they could grow faster?
Well, I think that what the pandemic is doing is creating new customer needs that never existed before. So I'll give you an example. I was talking with a friend this morning who is in the commercial real estate business, and he said, "Wow, commercial real estate really going to be hit hard. You know, people aren't going to need as much space. They're going to be working remotely." And I agree, it is going to be hit hard. Combining that with another idea, which is liberal arts colleges are going to be hit pretty hard, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if there are a few that actually end their life as a liberal arts college. Combining those two ideas, what if you took and the idea of remote work? People are going to be much more open to potentially living in a more small town community that has a city vibe. If a real estate developer could create some kind of experience where you could live in a small community but still have that city feel to it, the cost would be lower, et cetera. And what if you could take over one of these liberal arts colleges that was going out of business and create some kind of amazing place where you could live, where you could interact, where you could go to events, where you could work, where you could host even meetings for your company because you had that classroom space. So I think that there's just going to be some really interesting opportunities to pick up pieces from here and there and combine them in new ways while listening to how people's needs are changing.
Well, that's absolutely brilliant. And right in our community there was an old elementary school that was taken over by a technical school. Mike, you know more about what they're doing there than I do.
Well, Chattahoochee Tech, was originally Woodstock Elementary School. It took them several years to redevelop and repurpose. It's a beautiful campus, and incorporated into Chattahoochee Tech, there's what's called Fresh Start Cherokee and the Circuit, which is a co-working space that is partly funded by the Cherokee County Office of Economic Development. And part of what their ideal is to help foster innovation, help foster new businesses get started, help foster technology and other service type businesses in Cherokee County. One of the things we talked about a few weeks ago on TEDxDupreeParkTV was 1 million cups of coffee, which is a super neat initiative that was started in Kansas City a few years ago by the Kaiser Family Foundation. It's Shark Tank Light. And it's almost like TED.com and TEDx because there's 1 million cups of coffee has spread across to over 1,000 different little communities across the country. And once or twice a month, bring together a group of people and a presenter with an idea, with a business, with a challenge. And you're combining the ideas with the help from the audience on how to best proceed. It's a super neat setup. And something that I got to participate in this week, there's a learning center that's part of Fresh Start Cherokee, and it's essentially a book club. But one of the things that we're working on these past 2 months is a book called Rehumanize Your Business, which explores the opportunities of using personal videos in text and emails. As a financial planner, a money manager, a lot of my emails are fairly sterile and clinical. And to try and find a way to add some warmth to it. And I'm going to tell you, my business has gone through huge disruption in the last 10 years with the advent of robo-advisors and no-fee trade. It's a highly competitive and fast evolving business. Real estate is the same thing. There's more institutional player than ever have been, and you've got Zillow and Open Door. The future of real estate is going to be very different than it was in the past. I'm learning to love to embrace these new ideas that come along, and going back to this notion of failing forward, trying something. And it more and more, to me, it really is about the story. And it's about you and me and each of us, our own independent story, and how we can relate to and help our customers, our family, our friends make the most of what they have.
Right.
Yes, well, very good point. Commercial real estate is going to be severely impacted, as you mentioned. And what a great idea! There's going to be tremendous opportunity. Yes, colleges will close. Yes, businesses will close, and those properties can be repurposed into new things because people are always going to need facilities to bring them together so that they can do these things that they want to do, to live, work, and play in different ways. So, well, Amanda, thank you so much for being with us today. It's so good to see you. And I will be seeing you more tomorrow when we have our Harvard reunion party. Amanda and I were class of 1990 at Harvard Business School. And so although we had hoped to get together in Boston this year for our reunion, we're doing our virtual versions. And so Amanda is really spearheading that and working with me on that. So see you tomorrow, Amanda.
All right. Thanks so much for having me, Gina. Thank you, Mike.
Take care.
Amanda, thank you. What a great pleasure. And you're here local to Atlanta. So very cool.
Oh boy, so many smart people in the world, and just great that we're able to feature more of them on the TEDx Dupree Park TV show so that we can get the word out about what people are doing. So Mike, you're so active in the Woodstock business community there. I know that you know our next guest is coming on board. She's one of our sponsors. The sponsors are what makes the world go round in TEDx Dupree Parkland, because it costs money to get our facility for our event and do those beautiful videos that are going to be showed on TEDx, the TEDx YouTube site, and to feed the folks that are there and all these different things that we're doing. And so we're so grateful for our sponsors.
Absolutely. They're the ones that make it roll.
So one of the sponsors is joining us today, and that is Dr. Natalie Needham. How are you, Dr. Needham?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. What is it that attracted you to TEDx Dupree Park, and what caught your attention about us?
Well, I moved here about a year ago with my family, and being new to the area, just looking for some opportunities, ways to get involved, become a bigger part of the community. And I came across one of the advertisements in the Woodstock and the Canton mailers. And when I started reading about it and reading some of the testimonials of the speakers, especially Brielle was one that her story really stood out to me. And I thought, wow, this is so powerful. And just as someone who cares for women, I saw that a lot of speakers were really women-centric about their well-being. And then my second love, maybe even my first love, was the animal aspect of it. I'm a huge animal activist and lover, and I love that there was something that combined and was so strongly focused on both of these things. I thought, oh, this is perfect for me. So I just thought I had to be a part of this. It was getting involved was very easy and exciting, and I'm just ready to roll with it.
Well, we're really glad to have you a part of it. It means a great deal to us, and we want to help you and be a part of your business and life as well. What part of town, let me ask you, where did you move from? What brought you to the area, and where are you here in the area?
Sure. I was in Montgomery, Alabama for the past 7 years, where I was in a group practice there. And I have 3 amazing stepdaughters who were living in Birmingham at the time. Their mother got remarried and moved to the Atlanta area. And after a year of trying to do that track back and forth, it just got to be, it was too much, and we were missing them. We weren't getting to see them as much. I have a little boy who's a lot younger than they are, but he missed his sisters so much too. Yeah. And we thought something's got to change. And it was really scary to make that decision. I had such a great practice there, wonderful partners, great patients. I hated to leave, but it was definitely time and the best option for our family. And so we started looking and doing some interviews, and I met some really cool people along the way on these interviews. And in the first group that I got to meet with face to face, it just clicked. And I felt like it was one of those things. I felt like it was a God thing. These were the people that I was supposed to be with next. Mm-hmm. And it just really jived. And luckily they felt the same way about me. And It's a practice based out of Marietta, OBGYN Associates of Marietta. We also have an office in Town Lake and Woodstock. And we fell in love with the Woodstock area. And so it was a no-brainer that we were going to move. We technically live in Canton, but very, very close by. And I do practice primarily out of the Town Lake office, but I am in I'm in Marietta. At least once a week, we operate out of and deliver out of Kennestone Hospital, and sometimes Northside Cherokee. Yeah.
Now, if I may, how has the pandemic, the COVID, how has that affected your practice delivering babies? I mean, fathers not being able to come in, grandmothers, all of that stuff. I imagine it's turned it on its head. How are you and your clients coping?
Yes, the initial shock, it was really scary for everybody. And how are we going to take care of our patients and keep everybody safe and healthy? And we did some interesting things in the office to keep two different offices separated in case someone came down with COVID, that we could shut down one office and keep focusing in the other. Because for me and for a lot of my partners, we felt that it was super important for us to be there. I mean, pregnancy, you've got to be there. You've got to have hands-on and be able to touch and listen to babies and see these patients. But it's not just that. It's that emotional, mental health aspect about it too, is not having access to your doctor. Or, you know, so many people, as we're seeing, and we alluded to it a little bit earlier, are having just, you know, major crashes with depression and anxiety. And then we've got the domestic violence aspect of it. A lot of times as an OBGYN, we are the people that are finding it, or that somebody finally breaks down in the office and said, look, this is what's been happening to me. And we're that first line of defense there. So it was very important that we remained accessible to our patients. Our patient load, we definitely tried to minimize getting people in the office, and we didn't have so many people cross-acting with each other. But now picking up, we've kind of got a groove going and trying to minimize people, our social distancing. We already clean everything to death. So, I mean, we maybe even pick that a little bit more, but it's hard. I mean, you can imagine a first pregnancy, going through it at this time where you're already uncertain about everything that's going on and what's going to happen. And now you've got this big bad disease that's out there. And oh my gosh, what if my husband or my partner can't come in with me? We've been very lucky at Kennestone that they've never taken away the ability for a support person to come in. And I don't anticipate that to happen. We are COVID testing all of our patients that get admitted. So we're trying to decrease the risk of exposure and not waste our resources. And it seems to be working pretty well.
If I may, speaking of testing, this is, how often do you test? Is there a regimen for that? Every week, every 2 weeks, every month, or?
There isn't. And so it's basically symptomatic, or if you feel like you've been exposed.
Okay. Okay.
Because again, you're talking about resources, and if somebody has been, you know, we're very careful in our offices, again, with the cleaning and the masks, and as long as we're not exhibiting any symptoms and we haven't been exposed, if we had a patient that tested positive, then that would probably trigger it. We've been very lucky, again, that we haven't really had that happen. So,
good.
Keeping our fingers crossed.
I bet.
Dr. Needham, I'd like to back up just a little bit, looking over your website and seeing some of the awards that you've won in medicine and in your practice. What attracted you to medicine to begin with?
That's a very good question. In all honesty, I really didn't know what I wanted to do in college. And even as I got to the end of college, I wasn't really sure. But somebody mentioned med school, and I thought, well, that really sounds interesting. Maybe I'll try to get in. And if I get in, it's meant to be. And that's what happened. And going through medicine, it was very interesting to me. It just how the body works. I still am amazed by it. And part of why I went into OBGYN is that I am just amazed that our bodies can grow another human being. I never get tired of that, just miracle. And it really took going through a lot of med school to finally really find what I wanted to do in that niche. And I love women's health. I love that in my job, it's so diverse. I can see adolescents all the way up to, you know, it's a full lifespan, and I get to do all aspects. We have the mental health aspect, we have the pregnancy aspect. We have all the normal routine healthcare, health maintenance, and I get to touch women's lives. And in the South, it's getting better, but in the South, a lot of times, OBGYNs, at least historically, have been men, and women are not as comfortable with men. I came from a wonderful practice, but I have a lot of patients in that practice that transferred from my older male counterparts to me once they hit menopause, because they just felt like they couldn't discuss those menopausal problems they were having with the man. And so I'm glad that I'm here to be able to do that. And I love what I do. It's the babies part is a bonus, but all of it is just such an amazing, privilege to do every day.
Well, that certainly comes through, your passion for what you're doing. And that's so wonderful to see someone who's excited. And like you're saying, it's just a miracle that we can bring forth life this way. How amazing is that?
It's really cool.
I bet. I'll never forget when my son was born. It absolutely changed my life. It is a miracle.
I tell you, I was older when I finally had my own child. Mm-hmm. I turned 40 about a month after he was born. And I mean, going through it myself is a totally different aspect. And I feel like it gives me that added information that and experience I can pass on to my patients. I wish I had time in my life to have more babies, but like I said, I have 3 stepdaughters too. So we're very, very busy. But I feel like I have a little bit of experience with everything to add.
Well, Dr. Needham, thank you so much for your support of TEDx Dupree Park and for being part of the show with us today. If someone wants to get in touch with you and find out more about what you're doing, perhaps come and even see you and have you become their new doctor, what's the best way for someone to find you?
Just to go to OBGYN Associates in Marietta. You go through our website and give us a call.
Okay.
Excellent.
Terrific. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And we will be.
Thank you for what y'all are doing.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Have a great afternoon.
Well, Mike, we're wrapping up another show here. Often at this point, you come in and talk to us a little bit about what's going on in Woodstock. What else are you seeing happening in Woodstock right now?
Well, unfortunately, with the increased testing, there are more cases coming up. Unfortunately, a few places have had to reclose after opening. But overall, the mood is vibrant. People are out and about. People are social distancing. I see more masks. Downtown is still just kicking along. It's a great place to be. It's a great place to hang out. We're just now entering summer. The weather is delightful, particularly in the mornings where you can sit under a shade tree and have a cup of coffee and read the paper or converse with your friends or coworkers. Woodstock is a great place to be. Things are still continuing on. And like I said, the Office of Economic Development is still actively involved in promoting what we can. I invite you to check them out. Check out Fresh Start Cherokee. Check out the circuit. By all means, Google Million Cups of Coffee. It's a super neat idea and organization that is spreading like TEDx from TED.com. Otherwise, we're just making the most of what we have and trying to deal with what we have. And like TEDx Dupree Park, we're learning every week, going on and finding ways to continue to promote and bring people in and dollars in and jobs into Cherokee County.
Yes. Well, if you're interested in finding out more about what we're doing at TEDx Dupree Park, just go to TEDxDupreePark.com and you can learn more about our speakers and our sponsors, our team members, our venue, our incredible venue, Mad Life Stages and Studios in downtown Woodstock, which I understand has just started doing live shows again, right, Mike?
They have. They're doing well. The restaurant and the patio opened about 3 or 4 weeks ago. They just opened last week to live shows. I got to tell you, people, if you haven't seen, it is a first-class, first-rate music venue and video production, music production. it's the Levy's are very neat people. I've so enjoyed getting to know Mike and Kerry Levy. He's got a fascinating background in professional commercial audio visual equipment. They know what they're doing. They're easy to work with, and I can't certainly go without giving a plug for TEDx Dupree Park. We make it easy for you to be a sponsor, for you to help out, and I'd like to encourage everybody to imagine your name with TED. What a great thing that might be. It's one of the most trusted brands on the planet, and I got to tell you, TEDx Dupree Park, we're going to rock Woodstock one way or another. We're going to
rock Woodstock and the world. Absolutely.
Yeah,
well, thank you so much, Mike, for joining us today and for being the co-organizer of TEDx Dupree Park and for being my co-host and just spreading the word about the great things that we're doing. So with that, everyone, take care. Go see some greatness. Have some fun.
Be well.